Hello, Legal Shield family. This is your servant CEO, Jeff Bell, and I'd like to spend 5 minutes strong on how just a few little tricks of the trade can make any conversation with a prospect, whether to become a member of Legal Shield or ID Shield or a member of your team, can just give you more success and a deeper relationship. Remember, we don't sell, we just tell. We're just having conversations with people. At Legal Shield, we are in the business really of opening people's hearts as well as their minds. And today, what I'd like to do is spend just a little time on how to have better conversations with your prospects. And hopefully you'll find at the end that these 5 minutes are well worthwhile. Number one, don't ask yes or no questions when you're talking to a prospect. It's better to ask open-ended questions because they generate more interesting responses. Generally, open-ended questions unlock more information and you'll learn more about the people that you're talking to. For example, don't ask, do you like to save money? Or do you like to be treated fairly? The answer is either yes or no. Generally, it's going to be yes, but then there's just silence. Instead, ask something like, have you ever been mistreated and wish that you had a lawyer? Can you tell me about that situation? Or, what would you do if you had some additional income available to you and to your family? Second suggestion is always think about asking at least 2 or 3 questions once you get a response. So it's the easiest way to really deepen the conversation. For example, if you ask a person what they would do with additional income and they said that they would like to save for retirement, you should follow up with, well, what do you want to do in retirement? And let's say, for example, they say, well, I would love to go fishing. Well, then you should follow up with, well, why do you like to go fishing? What do you like about fishing? So now you're getting deeper and richer information about them, their desires, and their why. Another example is, if you ask a person about their dream job and they answer that they'd like some more time freedom, you should follow up with, well, why would you like more time freedom? And maybe they would answer with something like, well, their present job is super stressful. Well, then you should ask again, well, why is your present job stressful? Let them start to tell you more about their present circumstances. Repeated why questions in particular really can turn a very simple question into something much richer about dream jobs or earning more money or justice. Number 3, ask about specifics and try and avoid generalizations. Questions about specifics lead people to give answers that are not generic. For example, don't ask things like, did you have a good vacation? If you're just talking to somebody casually, ask instead, what was the single most fun thing that you did on vacation? Try and get very specific, and then they're going to start to open up and talk more freely and openly about the things that they feel as well as what they think. Number 4, ask about reactions. Frame questions around people's reactions to experiences in their life. What surprised them, what challenged them, what changed their viewpoint. For example, don't ask, don't you hate injustice? Instead, ask, have you ever felt powerless even when you knew that you were in the right? And when they ask yes, say, well, give me an example. What was that about? Number 5, ask follow-up questions. When you ask a question, pay attention to the answer and then be ready to ask a follow-on question to be able to dig a little deeper. For example, if a person says that they're most afraid of failing in business, follow up with a question like, what would make you feel more comfortable about taking risks? And then begin to explore that by asking more questions around their feelings, their thoughts around starting a business together. Number 6, ask about lessons. If your goal is to learn from somebody more about themselves, their life, the easiest shortcut to do so is to ask them, what lessons they've learned in their own life. For example, ask questions like, what did you learn when, you talked to that prospect? What do you wish you would have known before you started working with a prospect or with a new teammate? Or what advice would you have for others who want to get into this business of Legal Shield? Begin to just kind of find out what things, even if they were frustrations, what did they learn in those struggles that they potentially could overcome and you could help them overcome. Number 7, ask for a story. The most interesting information, I think, is always found in stories. Again, we don't sell, we just tell. So for example, don't ask, why do you dislike your job? Instead, ask, what's the worst day you ever had at work? Trust me, you're going to get an interesting story. You're going to start to build a rapport and a relationship. Number 8, try asking as if you were just a little kid. Children don't always fully understand more complex concepts. And so it's really, again, showing a little humility, but also kind of making it a little bit easier. If you were to ask, instead of asking a question like, can you explain how Legal Shield works? Ask, how would you explain the Legal Shield product to somebody who'd never heard of it before? And what happens is, especially if you say, how would you explain it to a 5th grader? Then you start to use things that might be more common, like, Instagram. As we talk about remote control for your life, your smartphone, Instagram, everybody knows it, right? Well, what it did to photographs is what Legal Shield does for legal services. Number 9, ask what else you should ask. When you wrap up time with a prospect, just give them an opportunity to give you feedback on things that you should have asked. They'll probably give you some pretty good suggestions. Just, for example, ask them, am I missing anything? What's the question nobody ever asks you that you would like to be asked? And what you're building, again, is more respect, edification. You always want to keep the control with your prospect, either for Legal Shield, ID Shield membership, or to potentially go into business with you. Well, that's 5 minutes strong. My name is Jeff Bell, and trust me, I am just getting started because we are Legal Shield, and the best is still yet to come.